And basically, I've been involved in well over 50 homicide trials and numerous situations where we do review files to decide whether or not we're going to prosecute. The current self-defense law works really well, and I do want to just state, as the current situation is set up, you know, I understand that the purpose of the bill is a very good one, and we're not criticizing the intent to protect people, because certainly that's what we need to do. The unintended consequences is what would be the problem, and I understand the gentleman that spoke earlier for the bill was concerned, and I just want to reassure everybody that as it stands with the current law, the police have the discretion to not charge someone. That happens quite often. Most of the time, the police, in a questionable situation, will put together a review file and send it to my office for us to review. We also have the discretion not to go forward. And I'll say in at least the last 20 files that were involving someone's death where self-defense was an issue and the police sent over just a review file, we didn't file it. And it's basically, we look at this very carefully, and we do protect the citizens that are out there that are using deadly physical force when they need to. The fact of the matter is, when you're in a situation and you have to use deadly physical force, you're not thinking about what the code book says. You're going to pull the trigger. And the way the law is set up right now, it gives you that ability. One other thing is there were comments that these situations involving these people going out with AK-47 and SKSs are unique. They are not. There are a lot of homicides in the city of Little Rock, and I've got one pending right now with an SKS. And I've also had a case where after a trial, the jury came to me and said, you know, we had this situation, and a couple of the jurors were wondering whether or not they should convict the guy or not, and they all said, well, you know, what about the retreat rule? And the retreat rule is able to put a violent, convicted felon in prison for 80 years. And we just don't want unintended consequences to give the real criminals an excuse. All the time I've ever seen a homicide come through, I've never seen one involving somebody with a concealed weapon law. The concealed weapon carriers are out there doing the right thing, and we're on their side.
All right, thank you, Mr. Howard. Are there any questions about the committee? All right, thank you, sir. Mr. Burris, this is your opportunity to clarify or respond to any questions about the committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And I want to thank all parties on both sides and thank the committee for their indulgence. This has been a very interesting day, one that I will not too soon forget. A couple of things I would like to start off and say is that in regards to the domestic violence, that will be addressed. In response to Mrs. Mariana, if I said that correctly, if you will remember when we started early this morning, I talked about the David and Goliath story. I do not have privy to all of the information and the research ability, nor do I work for someone that allows me that library. I'm not an attorney. I know what the intent is of this bill. Also, if you remember me talking earlier this morning, I talked about the Chicken Little syndrome. And the prosecutors in every state that this has been passed in has used the same type of scare tactics. And had I had the information and the knowledge and the ability to do research, I could rebut all of those with emotional stories just as flaming as those. So, and I did not choose to do that. I'm a person that, those of you who know me, I like to deal with the facts. But there are a lot of assumptions in here in regards to Mrs. Mariana's presentation, which I thought was quite impressive. For example, she talked about the first case, Brandon Hardman. You know, I was looking here on some of our cases, on some of the current laws. For example, the choice of evils 5-2-604 that says, if the actor is reckless or negligent in bringing about the situation requiring choice of evils, which is the reason why it's named that section, they can be charged under that. That could not be, that would also give them a situation on the bill that we're trying to do. So it doesn't limit it to that. She also just casually mentioned gun enhancement problem with Christopher McBride. I don't know whether that was a former convicted felony. I don't know what that was. That was one of those terms that alludes to something that doesn't give a quite description. First of all, she spoke with such authority that her opinion is reality. In my opinion, that she's in the minority of people that actually believe all of that is true. And I ask this question: if that were so, why do people feel so threatened in our society? If that's so, why do we feel so threatened, as you spoke? If that's so, why do we see and read in the news victims of crime being sued by criminals for injury or damage? Whenever we were talking about, are all the people in Arkansas not smart enough to apply this law that's already in effect in 15 states? I ask you, are we not smart enough to do that? When she talks about, how difficult it make for jury instructions, they have that in other states. Do they have any problem with jury instructions in other states? So, I would have to agree that there are some problems with this bill. I said that in the beginning of the presentation. But there are certain areas that are non-negotiable at all. And so I am going to ask you, Mr. Chairman, at this time, Representative Stewart, do you want to say anything? You're recognized, Representative.
Thank you. I'd like to thank everybody for bringing out some of the questions. Everybody has different opinions of what things mean, and we're very glad that you pointed out some of these discrepancies in here. We'll go back and work on that and try to address those situations to fix the bill. We still think the intent is good. We need to work on the language, work with the people here that's brought the questions up, and try to come back with a stronger, better bill for the citizens of Arkansas.
So I take it that you want to pull the bill down?
Mr. Chairman, at this time we will pull the bill down, and I would ask this. I would ask those people who had a problem with the bill in certain sections for them to get with us where we can work on it together, all parties.
Anita, hold on just a minute. Are there any questions by any committee members at this point of the sponsors? Okay. Does anyone have any objection to Mr. Burris pulling the bill down at this point? All right, so ordered without objection.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you, committee member.
Just one moment. We do have Mr. Harrelson. You want to wait till Thursday?
I have some people going to come testify. I'm going to bring Thursday.
All right. I don't think there are any other sponsors present. Mr. Johnson, I'm sorry I overlooked you.
I have some.
Okay.
HR 1027, the bill to allow people to defend themselves with firearms, and it's going to be worked on. I'll try and keep it this when I can. Of course, I'll also have to tape the HB1024 on Thursday.
Take care of meetings.